Hello, this is Jethro Jones. Welcome to Transformative Principle. I am so excited to have you here. Awkward. Anyway, we're just going to roll with it because this is one of my off week podcasts where I'm not interviewing someone. I'm just talking about something that I care about myself. And today the topic is college and career readiness. Now, before you get too bored with that, because that does sound wicked boring, I'm not actually going to talk about being college and career ready. I'm going to talk about getting rid of that idea because it just seems so empty. It seems so without vision and without excitement. It just seems like, why would anybody want to get ready for more boredom, which is what that sounds like. Recently, I was able to hear from a speaker, George Martinez, who I hope to have on the podcast soon, who's the chief of staff for the Anchorage mayor. And he spoke at the African American Student Leadership Conference that has been happening here in Fairbanks for the last 31 years. Wow. Amazing. I could not believe that it'd been going on that long. And it was awesome to meet him and the other people who were involved in that. And I'm grateful my students were able to participate in that as well. And hopefully they learned something meaningful from it. But the term that George Martinez used was path to passion rather than career pathways. That sounds so much more inspiring than just finding a job. And I think the reason I like that so much is that we all need something more than a job. We need our own personal mission statements that define what we're going to do and who we are as a part of our life. Now, that is easy to say and think. That was my daughter sneezing. That is easy to say and talk about, but it really does matter. And if you just go to work every day, and maybe you're in this situation, you're feeling unfulfilled because you don't have a bigger purpose than collecting a paycheck. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, I highly doubt that is you, but I'm sure that you know someone who's in that situation. And that sounds like a tragedy to me. I cannot imagine having that be my daily grind, and that would just be awful. Thankfully, it's not. And I feel like what I'm doing here on the podcast and at my school is inspiring and has a big vision behind it. And let me tell you a little bit about how that came to be. Now, much of what I believe comes from my spiritual journey as I have grown up. And it started with a song that we sang in church called I Am a Child of God. And it's basically about how every kid is a child of God. And from that early age, I have sang that song and thought about it and pondered it. And I truly do believe that we are all so much more than we give ourselves credit for. When I believe that, then I also believe that I'm a child of God. I believe that others are children of God as well. And because they have so much more potential than they believe. And it makes it much easier for me to be kind and nice to people. That doesn't mean I'm perfect at it, because I do make mistakes, but it also makes it easier to have high expectations of people because they are truly more than they can ever believe. So beyond that, I discovered my own passion at about 16 years old. When I was about 16, I learned that I had skills in teaching others and leading others. And I could have chosen many other professions besides teaching and education. But because of my not so great educational experience as a young man, I knew that I could impact kids in a powerful way. So that's what I chose to do. I inspire teachers and leaders and students to be their best. And that's why I do this podcast, because I am living out my purpose for my life. This is more than me just sitting in front of a microphone in my basement even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it's much more than that. The mastermind that I do is more than just me hanging out with some really cool leaders. The Transformative Leadership Summit is more than just a conference or a string of interviews. Those are extensions of me fulfilling a very real purpose. And it makes it so much easier to do those things when it's connected to something that is bigger than who I am myself. An educator could not have told me that I'd be doing this now when I was 16. There's no way I would have believed that to begin with. But a visionary man helped me understand way back when I was 16 that right now I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing and that I'm where I'm supposed to be. Now, the real challenging part of this understanding our passion is that it is definitely, admittedly, a frufru kind of thing. And someone recently used that word, and I didn't exactly know what they meant by it, but it's something that you can't really put your finger on and say, there, that's your passion, or here's how you find your passion. I don't think that you'll be able to find a guru that says, find a dead-end job and stick with it until you retire where you can finally do what you want. That's not very inspiring, right? All the gurus, Tony Robbins, anybody you talk to, Zig Ziglar, Seth Godin, they all say, find the thing that you're passionate about and do that and worry about the money stuff later. That's scary for teachers, isn't it? It sure is. So I think about some of the recent college grads that I know that are basically doing anything they can because they need money. And I understand that. I've been there. I had the worst job ever one time working for this company that cleaned up construction sites and made them environmentally friendly. Oh, that was an awful job. I did not last very long there. And I knew then, when I was just before I turned 19, that I needed to find something that would help me have the passion in my life, to have a purpose that was greater than whatever it was that I was doing day in and day out. So these people, they're using this time after college to figure out what they love, and they don't have any idea what they're doing. So they're going from job to job, lasting only a couple months at each one, trying to figure things out and feeling totally lost in the process. And that's really challenging. And I feel so sorry for them for what they are going through with that, because as I said, they can be so much more than that. In this day and age with technology, I have a hard time believing that there's someone out there who can't make a living from living their passion. I just have a hard time believing that they couldn't find 1,000 other people who care about what they care about and find a way to make that work. With how flat the world is and how quickly we can become connected across country borders, it's just amazing. So a career is something that old people talk about. To the younger generation, they're just living their life. Even for my generation, I don't want to have a career. That sounds really boring and unexciting to me. I want to have a passion, a purpose, a life that matters and means something. And, maybe it's because we all grew up on comic books that we all want to be powerful and important. But the reality is that we are powerful and important. We have so much potential that we so often do not unlock. We've got to find a way to communicate that and inspire our students with that. But again, this is challenging, especially for educators, to inspire kids with an unknown. We as educators like clear, specific answers that fit nicely in the box. We don't know what to do when we can't predict the future, which is funny because we really can't predict the future. And we know that we can't predict the future, and yet we often try to make it happen anyway. So how do we reconcile this? We understand that we can't possibly tell what the future holds for kids, and yet we need to inspire them to find what they can do all day and love for their whole lives. Now, some might say that playing Call of Duty all day is what they love, but the reality is they don't love that. Most of them prefer that to the boring drudgery of getting college and career ready. So let's inspire them to do something more noble than find a job, and help them find a fulfilled life by finding their purpose for being here. And I believe that each one of us does have a purpose. And the sooner we can help others find that purpose, the more we're going to be able to connect the education that they're having to that purpose and inspire them to be amazing. I'd love to hear your feedback. Leave a comment on this at transformativeprinciple.org, or reach out to me at Jethro Jones on Twitter, or you can find me on LinkedIn or all those other places too. Thank you so much for listening to Transformative Principle.